Hello there. Something strange is going on. Twice already I've tried to record this video, and first of all, because I've got my little light on, I don't know what you call it, my little halo light here, and I'm using my phone to record, and I've done this dozens of times, okay, and I've got it plugged into my laptop. So I'd started the first recording and then the light suddenly went off. The laptop had just suddenly turned itself off. So I put the laptop back on again and turn the light back on and start again. And within a couple of minutes, the video just stopped. My phone just disconnected it and took me back to the home screen. Now that's never happened before. And there was something else that was kind of strange today as well. I was texting backward and forwards with my youngest daughter. And she used to work in a particular place where there was some, obvious paranormal activity going on. But there was somebody there who called the entity Victoria. Now, this person had learning difficulties, so they were kind of childlike, do you know what I mean? But they were convinced. Now, nobody had said anything. This person did not have anyone in their family called Victoria. There was no name, it wasn't a name that they'd heard, but, had talked to this entity, sometimes shouted at it, sometimes was afraid of it. But given that there was other stuff going on, then kind of, I suppose my daughter sort of thought, well, okay, we'll call this energy, whatever it is, we'll call it Victoria. Anyway, but that was a while ago. She left the place, but recently she was on the phone to somebody there. Well, today actually, she was on the phone to somebody there, and they were having a conversation. So she texted me after that, and she said, it's odd. She said, because her phone suddenly suggested the next word to use. I suppose she's using preemptive text. I don't. She said, was Victoria. And she said, there was no word that I was typing that was anything like Victoria, and there'd been no mention of Victoria. And so she thought that was kind of creepy. And I must admit, I thought, well, okay, there's coincidences. But I don't know. I said, oh, it looks like Victoria wants you to come back there. So I'm not into spooky stuff. I worked as a medium for around 25 years. I'm largely retired now. I don't do much of it. And anyway, so I'd recently written a little book. It's only about 100 pages long, is it? I can't even remember. Yeah, 100 pages long. Spirits, Ghosts, and Troublesome Entities. And so what I was the purpose of this really was to talk about what my version of a spirit is, what my version of a ghost is, what troublesome entities can be about. And what I'd done is I'd asked on social media, I'd asked a few questions, and people, kindly gave their responses, and I, sifted through them and edited them a little, and I've included some of them in here. Now, what I had noticed is there's a lot of people believe that if you die under traumatic circumstances, that you remain connected to the place at which you died. Now, it's not something I personally believe, but I'm not dissing anybody else for believing it. But that actually came out in the responses. It became clear that a lot of people do think that. Now, I'm not quite sure why. I did ask, one of the questions was to explain why they may believe something, and that was kind of skirted over, largely speaking. So maybe people just don't know why, or maybe they can't quite explain it. But anyway, so it's been a little bit of a funny day, really. So I don't know, it could be pure coincidence. I've never had that issue with the light suddenly turning itself off. I've never had the video all of a sudden stop and then the phone return to the home screen. So I don't know, maybe Victoria's influence is mischievous. There would be things, from what I can remember, things like door slamming and sounds of people running around upstairs when, there was nobody running around upstairs. And certainly, as I say, one particular person who was very kind of childlike and open and honest, often talked about a Victoria and sometimes got very cross with them. So I don't know. I just don't know, but there it is. Now, my daughter, she's fairly, everyone is intuitive, right? Nobody's gifted with a sixth sense. Anybody who claims to be gifted with a sixth sense, I believe, is wrong. Every human being has intuitive capacity. You can't be born without it. However, that if you're going to work as a professional intuitive, then there's a lot more to it than just having, being naturally intuitive. There's a lot to learn, there's a lot to understand. And but I had noticed that my daughter was had always been fairly sensitive, fairly aware of things, although she didn't really want to be. So yeah, so maybe that's why it's maybe that's why she was more aware than some others, because it wasn't everybody who worked at the place who was aware. It was a small number of people, but clearly something was going on. And of course she did night shift, so it's quieter at night, isn't it? So it's easier to hear stuff going on, it's easier to see stuff going on. Yeah. So anyway, my version of a spirit, this is my interpretation of what a spirit is it's a thinking, feeling, knowing, conscious form of non-physical energy. Now that could be a deceased relative, friend or relative, but it might not necessarily be so. Not every spiritual energy that we encounter has been a person who has walked this earth, I believe. I believe we live in a multi-dimensional existence. I'm not a spiritualist medium, so although I worked as a medium for many, many, many years, and I've featured on radio and I've given hundreds of stage shows in my day, but I'm not a spiritualist medium. Now, people are very, very confused by that, because they think that if you're working intuitively or if you're working as a medium, then there is only one pathway, and that is the spiritualist movement pathway, but it isn't. And it is really hard to explain. And I think it's probably me who's not explaining it well, because I can't get it across to people. And that years ago, in my book, in both my books, Our Life Beyond Death, An Incredible Journey, and How the Dead Connect with Us, and vice versa, I did explain some of my past experience with the spiritualist movement, which was a long time ago. And that, in fact, I actually even gave services to a number of churches, or on behalf of a number of churches, but it was never really quite my thing, and I moved away from it. And I actually didn't join a development class in order to develop my intuitive skills. I did that on my own. Now, I'm not saying that anybody should not be a spiritualist, or they shouldn't join the spiritualist movement or a spiritualist church. All I'm saying is that there seems to be a belief that it's the ultimate authority on the subject of life after death, and it isn't. It's a movement, and basically it is a religion, because religions have their own doctrines, their own beliefs, and so there is that within the spiritualist movement, and you can always tell. You can tell when a person has been spiritualist church trained or strongly influenced by the spiritualist movement. And again, I'm not criticizing. I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying, it's easy to see. It's easy to spot. So there are obviously crossovers. There are things that people who follow the spiritualist movement will believe and will consider and will explore the same way that I do. But you know, I've always been very keen on challenging things and on questioning things. And there are so many things that we don't have an answer to. And being human, we always want this set specific explanation for things. And so we look for places where we can get that. And if we can't get it, then we think maybe that person doesn't know what they're talking about, or it's a cop out. But the truth is, there's so much that we don't know for sure. Do you know what I mean? So anyway, to me, a spirit is, as I've already said, it's like a life force. It's conscious, it's aware, it's responsive, it's non-physical. A ghost, to me, it's something else entirely. from my experience, you can have a ghost around you, or you can witness a ghost, but it's almost as if it's not aware of you. It's it's like it's in its own world, it's in its own space, it's unaware. And so it feels, for want of a better way of describing it, more one-dimensional, kind of flat. That's so it's not responsive. So a ghost is a non-responsive form of non-physical energy. But that is only my belief, and you may have other thoughts entirely on that subject, you know. So a troublesome entity is one that is causing trouble, basically, one way or another. And there's many ways in which a troublesome entity can upset the apple cart of life. So just to sort of recap, you know, within the spiritualist movement, there is this belief about the other side, you know, or two sides come together. Now, I don't believe that's entirely untrue, because if you look at our physical universe, it's made up of opposites, isn't it? And I'm saying all of this clumsily because I'm not a scientist, so this is just my interpretation. But so we've got matter and antimatter, we've got male and female, night and day, hot and cold, birth and death. So there's always that kind of opposite, that mirror image. And so with our physical universe, our physical world, then it's going to have its opposite, its energetic, its metaphysical version. So that then would be the other side, wouldn't it? But that is only the other side of our existence within this multi-dimensional existence. And I don't know how many dimensions there are, but this is, I believe that we exist in the same space at the same time. If you can even call it space, we're all existing in the same place, but at the same time, and at different levels of awareness. So around me now and around you, there will be all sorts of other life going on that we have no awareness of. We have no awareness of that dimension. And sometimes the dimensions overlap. And so that is how you can get hauntings, or, well, that's one way of getting hauntings. There are other explanations, I feel, also behind it. And there are entities, energies, who have figured out how to communicate from one dimension to another for their own purposes, often. So therefore, we, in our physical universe, our physical world, with its metaphysical reflection, its metaphysical opposite, if you like, we are only part of something much, much bigger. And it's really hard to get your head round. And within that, there's much I can't explain. And years ago, I would try to come up with an explanation for everything. Now I no longer do. But I will keep digging, and sometimes I can find stuff that makes some sense to me. And so, in terms of an entity that is causing havoc, it could be that just we're aware sense-wise of something and it's making us uncomfortable. It could be creating some disturbance. And sometimes, and I've had this experience, which will be for another video entirely, of being drawn in by a particular energetic form, who is very, very clever. And in the book, I include a story that a young woman told me, and I included it because it interested me, because I recognized what she was saying. It wasn't exactly the same story. Hers occurred through using a Ouija board, mine did not. But it was a very similar story. And so there are energy forms who can befriend us, start to communicate with us on a personal basis. But then, you will find this is not the same as talking to your Auntie Annie who died, your nice Auntie Annie. This is not the same as that. This is different. This is an unknown to you energy form that will communicate with you and provide you with information. And often that information can be very accurate. But over time, you start to realize that actually there's something a little bit unwholesome going on here. So I always say, look, if you've got paranormal activity going on around you and it's not really bothering you, it's not really causing any upset, leave it alone. Just don't do anything about it. Get on with your life, you know. However, if it is creating a problem, consistently creating a problem, then you would really need to call on the services of somebody who is experienced in that particular way of working, that they could help you disconnect from this energy, or to, you know, clear it away. Now, as I've said, there's a lot of stuff I'm really not into that is connected with the spiritual and psychic world. And there are things that I won't really be tempted to get involved in because they're not my thing. And I have seen a lot of drama attached. There's a huge amount of drama comes with especially the commercial in psychic and spiritual world, especially with that. So you've got to be careful, you know, and people love drama. You know, a lot of human beings really love drama, so they find it really exciting. But I explain in the book, you know, I start off explaining about a house that we lived in for a number of years that we actually really loved and we were happy there. But there was increasing paranormal activity, and I explain why I think that is. I talk about why I myself do not voluntarily get involved in anything that I don't need to be involved in, energetically speaking, psychically, spiritually speaking. So, and then there is a chapter in there on why I disagree with ghost hunting. And again, it's all my own personal view. But what it seems to me, in terms of the title, Spirits, Ghosts and Troublesome Entities, that spirits and ghosts, the term is interchangeable, and some people will use one sometimes and then the other times. Some people will believe every energy that's non-physical is a ghost. Some people will believe that, you know, spirits are one thing, ghosts are another. As I've already said, a lot of people seem to believe that if you die under tragic circumstances, for whatever reason, you remain connected to, or you keep revisiting the place of your death. And nobody really, well, people had different views and opinions on why there would be paranormal activity going on. So, yeah. So I think that's it, really. I'm going to do some other videos. So if you want to hear more about my take on the non-physical world, and include some stories, you know, hear some of the stories that I can remember. The thing is, I forget so much. Honestly, I have worked for, as I say now, because I'm still a professional intuitive consultant, but where mediumship is concerned, I'm largely retired from that. And there was so much, but I can't remember most of it, which is a shame. I could have written 100 books by now, but I just can't remember most of it. So if you want to hear more, please subscribe. And, you know, if you like it, and if you disagree with what I say, you'll not like it. You'll give me a thumbs down. That's fine. To be honest with you, that's not bad at all. Because one last thing I've noticed with my book, Life Beyond, it's my book and I can't remember, Our Life Beyond Death, An Incredible Journey. On Amazon now, I've got, on Amazon UK anyway, I've got 132 ratings and reviews, mostly ratings because now people don't need to leave a review. And I'm aware that some of the things that I say in it, which are my beliefs, are going to upset one or two people. Not everybody, but you know, it's my take on it, and I'm very clear throughout the book that I am not pushing my views onto anybody. We still have to choose. But I know from reading other people's book reviews, some people are really upset if you mention God. Some people are really upset if you don't mention God. Some people are upset if, you know, you don't believe this or that. Some people claim to know exactly what happens when people die, and that they are an expert and that the author is wrong. And of course, that's not true, is it? So yeah. So if you want more, please tune in, because I'm going to make some more videos. Okay, this is my first one on this subject. Take care. Bye.